What's up everyone, it's Ruby here, bringing us another video. So today we're going to be looking at 5 things we want in Elder Scrolls 6. This is a whole series, so we're going to be talking about whether or not I personally would want to see these things mentioned happen in Elder Scrolls 6, whether or not I think they are practical, and also whether or not I think it would actually bring something to the series that hasn't already been done before, or would expand on the existing franchise. So we're going to be looking at this through kind of a practical lens and see if this is something that would truly be viable in Elder Scrolls 6. So we're going to turn this into a whole discussion video. We're going to look at this part 1. We'll do it one part at a time, so we won't do everything all at once, because there's multiple parts. But we'll look at this first video, and if you guys enjoy it, make sure to leave a like on this video, and subscribe for more content like this. So, without further ado, let's talk about Elder Scrolls 6.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Michael, and welcome
to
Michael. Fudgemuppet. If you've been watching our channel for a while, you'd probably know that we're very keen on discussing Elder Scrolls 6, and when it was announced at E3 this year, we went absolutely nuts. There's still quite a while till we can get our hands on it, but that won't stop us brainstorming exactly how we want the game to be structured. Today, I thought it would be awesome to go through 5 things that we, as in the Fudgemuppet crew, really want in Elder Scrolls 6. These 5 things aren't in any order, and we're not including ideal perk trees because we'll want to cover those in separate videos to make sure this doesn't go for an hour long. A massive thank you to everyone out there supporting the channel too, especially those who would watch an hour long video.
Support
let us know if you want a part 2 for this video as well, because we've got lots of Elder Scrolls 6 discussion ideas to go through. If you have any ideas for future Elder Scrolls 6 discussions, let us know in the comments below and we'll definitely consider covering it. Now let's dive right into the lands of Elder Scrolls imagination.
Alright, let's get into it.
Number 1. In Elder Scrolls 6, we would absolutely love a resolution with the Thalmor and the Old Mirri Dominion. The Thalmor have become such an...
Okay, so the first thing is a resolution of the Thalmor plot. The first question is, would I want to see that in Elder Scrolls 6? Absolutely yes. Well, not exactly a resolution. I think a follow-up is more like it. I think being able to connect the worlds and stories into the next game is important when building a world and kind of telling that story. However, I understand that Bethesda kind of likes it to allow new players to play their games. So they don't want people to have to buy all 5 previous Elder Scrolls games. Of course, they would like it, but they don't want that necessarily. Especially with the Todd Howard vision of any player being able to play their new games. I wouldn't really think that they would pick up right where we left off with the Thalmors. Especially because if they didn't do that, if they don't pick up right where the Thalmors left off, then it leaves room for players to be able to fill in the gaps, as well as for there to be lore added later. Whether it be through like books, lore books, kind of history books, or whether it be through theorists and fans, or later games, potentially speaking. I mean, we are assuming that Elder Scrolls is going to be going on for quite some time, with 7, 8, 9, 10 games at the very least. I mean, we just got confirmation that Fallout 5 is going to be happening, so we're assuming that these stories are going to be told for a while. And so whether or not we want the Thalmor story to be addressed is a huge question. I think it would definitely be the right path to go. However, I don't think it should be immediately following the Civil War. What I think should happen is some years pass and we're at a new point in the war, where whatever it is, and we pick up from there. This allows not only for player choice to matter in Skyrim, but it also allows there to be enough time to pass where even our decisions of whether we support Ulfric or whether or not we support the Imperials could be affected, could not, well, it wouldn't really make a difference because, well, whoever was the leader could be slaughtered by the Thalmor, or the Thalmor Dominion, the Aldemary Dominion, could very well just take over the Skyrim province, and so whatever decision we made wouldn't even matter because historically it would have been inevitable. This isn't something that is out of the ordinary or out of this world. I definitely think it is practical for the Thalmor to be able to take over Skyrim, whether it be with the whether it be with the Stormcloaks in charge, or whether it be with the Imperials in charge. Because at the end of the day, Skyrim is a very divided nation. It does not agree with where it stands. And so the Thalmor would then use that against the Skyrim citizens and be able to kind of just wipe them out and take over their province. So now Skyrim potentially in the future is dominated by the Aldemary Dominion, and then wherever we take place, whether it be Hammerfell, High Rock, elsewhere, it doesn't matter, as long as there's some indication of where Skyrim stands historically. So if Skyrim is taken over by the Aldemary Dominion, then it would be a very big news. It would be in history books. It would be in, like, all talk all over the inn. You could have it as a rumor, like saying, hey, there was a rumor that, Skyrim is not doing so hot in the war. You'd have subtle references that don't exclude the possibility of the player participating in the Civil War, and also perhaps altering it to where in the Stormcloak's favor or the Empire's favor. Either way, it would result in there being this kind of answer to, like, what happened with the Thalmors, and it would give us even more of a reason to go against them or potentially join them if we so wanted to.
Integral part of the Elder Scrolls world and lore, and we're all wondering what's going to happen with their plans to dominate Tamriel. Skyrim was really building this up, and I don't want it to just be swept under the rug. Will the Thalmor eventually take over the Empire and rule the large majority of Tamriel? Will they actually be pushed back by the Empire after they're headed by a newly appointed Emperor? Will the Red Guards help assisting in this, or will the Dominion crumble from the inside because they treated those in other provinces, such as Elsewhere and Valenwood, too abusively? I'm just spitballing here, but we all want to know what happens with the Thalmor and their plot for expansive domination.
I definitely think they should be kind of a follow-up antagonist, or potentially speaking, because I think story-wise it would be more compelling if we could choose our side. Instead of us thinking the Thalmor is the number one enemy of the Empire, imagine playing a character that actually has grown up in the Aldemary Dominion, supports what they believe, and even having a counter argument as to why they do. Right? Because the Aldemary Dominion, while we see them as enemies, there is very much support for the Aldemary Dominion in Tamriel. Whether it be in Hammerfell, whether it be in Elsewhere, whatever, there is definitely support for the Aldemary Dominion, otherwise they wouldn't be going so far as to where they are right now. So I think because I know it's in Skyrim, right, you're kind of forced to see the Thalmor as enemies. But what if we played a character that could potentially see them as allies and even join them? That would make Elder Scrolls 6 very impactful, because we, the player, will decide whether or not we trust the Thalmors or not. We could easily play kind of the spy character, like maybe we're spying on the Thalmor Dominion, the Aldemary Dominion. Maybe we're spying on the Thalmors, and we're giving information to the Empire or to the Stormcloaks or whatever, in order to help them during the war. This opens up so many branches of play And I think it would take Elder Scrolls 6 to the next level. And I think that's definitely the potential of upgrading the Elder Scrolls franchise into something that is much more impactful than just kind of one-off dialogue, or like we could generally shape the entire world of Tamriel through Elder Scrolls 6. We could support the Almeri Dominion. We could help them dominate over the next province that we are involved in. We could also help hinder and stop the Almeri Dominion. Maybe it doesn't make a difference, but at the end of the day, we have sides to choose. We have the choice of whether or not our character would support or be against the Almeri Dominion. We have, because I mean, we kind of went with this question during Sadie's mission. We had the question of whether or not we trusted the Alakir warriors or the Redguard woman. But the answer to that can be a lot more complicated than just we trust the Alakir, we trust Sadie. We could be kind of that person who kind of dwindles back and forth. Like, we don't trust the Almeri Dominion, but maybe they are like a better option than the alternative. What is the alternative? What could the alternative even be? We haven't even really discussed that yet. What if we take out the Almeri Dominion, but something else takes its place? Something worse. Like a danger cult. I don't know. But we could have that world building. You could have those consequences come back into the Elder Scrolls 6, but actually have them mean something. If the Almeri Dominion is truly powerful in the Elder Scrolls 6, there is genuine reason to be on the Almeri Dominion side. And it would open up the gates for so many different builds, so many different ways to play the game. You could go back over and over and over again and explore the different paths, explore the different ways of plays. And I definitely think that the more broader the Elder Scrolls 6 takes with its missions, with choosing sides, with and having it affect you, and having it affect the game. Like, imagine you're the leader of the Dark Brotherhood. You want to take out the Almeri Dominion because you see them as a threat. But in order to do that, you have to make decisions based on whether or not you the best ways to take them out. And some of that might be subterfuge. Some of that might be just direct attacks. Not all of it is going to be decisions that are easy to make, and not all of it is going to be decisions that will be the right decision, right? So in order to bring the Elder Scrolls into a realistic setting, into a world where there's consequences for your choices, I think that there needs to be a level up on the consequences that happen. Instead of being able to join every single guild and every single faction, whatever, you should have to make decisions based on you make your decision. You join this guild, you join this faction. Everybody kind of knows this, and that can affect your standing in the world. And people know that you are the leader of the Dark Brotherhood, and they might fear you. They might not want to do business with you. They might be afraid of you. If people know that you're a part of the Thieves Guild, the leader of the Thieves Guild, they might, like, beggars might love you more, but other people might be a little bit more hesitant towards you. If we can get that dynamic in Elder Scrolls, I think it would bring Elder Scrolls to a whole new level of gameplay and a whole new level of immersion. Being able to choose to work with the enemy would be a game-changing decision to make. It would be very important to include in the Elder Scrolls 6. Now, whether or not they will do that, I don't know. I don't know how far they're willing to push this. I know Todd Howard wants to bring this to the next level, and I think we can get there. I think we can get to the next level by making our choices matter even more than they already do in Skyrim.
Now here's the thing. At first you might think, it would be perfectly fine to have Elder Scrolls 6 set in Hammerfell or High Rock or both, and the Thalmor conflict is explored more and it's really cool, but not resolved by the end of the game. And you're right, it would be cool to explore more, but a resolution is what I'd most prefer. The reason for this is that if you haven't noticed, Elder Scrolls main titles are truly a rare event. We got Skyrim in 2011, and maybe we won't get Elder Scrolls 6 until 2021 or 2022, who knows? If we don't get a Thalmor resolution in Elder Scrolls 6,
yeah, no.
in Elder Scrolls 7, when we're all more than a decade older than we are now. I don't think anyone wants to wait that long to find out what happens with this faction. Now, the other thing with this wish of ours to see the Thalmor conflict resolved is that we actually don't mind whether or not we play it. Yes, it would be very cool to play through the resolution, but even if we just skip forward more in time for Elder Scrolls 6, and you can read or hear of what happened to the Thalmor presence, that would also be acceptable. For example, if the game was set in Valenwood and the Thalmor still ruled it, you could hear stories about how the Thalmor were eventually pushed back, and now they have no grasp on the Empire whatsoever. Or maybe the game is set in Hammerfell and High Rock, and you can read about the time that the Red Guards made a truce with a strengthened Empire, and together they drove the Thalmor out of their territory and severely weakened their forces, at least for now. We would also probably hear what happened in the Civil War in Skyrim, so in a nutshell, I don't mind if we actually play it out ourselves, or if we're just dumped into a new world and hear about what happened. Either way, Elder Scrolls 6 should be a sensational game. I just want to know what happens with this conflict.
So obviously the solution is kind of deciding whether or not the Thalmor should be the main focus, or if we should go somewhere else. I think if the Outer Dominion are the main focus of the game, right, it's going to change the game entirely. It's good. I mean, it definitely opens up a potential beginning. Maybe you're a prisoner of the Thalmor Dominion, or of the Thalmors. Maybe you need to escape, and you need to kind of restart your life, and you kind of need to make decisions. But, I mean, if you're imprisoned by the Thalmor, that would leave them as the enemy, right? It wouldn't really give you the opportunity to potentially have allies of Thalmor. However, what if your imprisonment is actually a mistake? Or, what if during your imprisonment, you meet potentially, like, people who have escaped the Thalmor Dominion, or at least have tried to do so. So you could go definitely the tyrannical route, and maybe by then, like, you wouldn't necessarily support the Thalmor at that point. I think if we go more in the direction of the Thalmor Dominion, or the Thalmor being a known presence, kind of having this almost like martial law kind of feel, where the Thalmor are just like everywhere in the game, because potentially they've just like taken over Tamriel, or potentially the rebellion was enough to kind of defeat the Outer Dominion and push them back. Because I feel that even if the Imperials actually win the Civil War, that doesn't mean that the Thalmors would go on to rule. Because even people within the Imperial Legion understand that the Thalmor are kind of a threat and kind of aren't really good people. So I feel like that could be explored as well. Maybe, like, yes, the Imperials did win the war, but maybe instead of the Imperials winning the war and prospering, they actually went into kind of a drought where they kind of suffered a bit in the aftermath of the war, because the citizens were like rebelling against them because they did not support the Outer Dominion rule. And so you could actually build it into the lore where no matter which side wins the Civil War, the rebellion kind of pushes back, and it gets so strong that Outer Dominion have no choice but to abandon Skyrim and move to a different province, and maybe that province is the next territory that we explore. Whether it be Valenwood or elsewhere or at Hammerfell, there is the potential of showing that impact without it being the main focus, or without it being so prominent. Because I do think that the Bethesda wants to tell these individual stories and not so much make it like franchising, because they do want to make it so that it feels satisfactory for the player and that they can always have new players jumping on their board without needing to know what happened in the previous game. That's always been the Elder Scrolls MO, and I don't think they would just abandon that now after they've set that. I don't think that's the right play. I don't think that's the right decision to do. So I think instead of it being about the Thalmor, like the Thalmor being the main enemy, potentially they have just left Skyrim. And so they're kind of struggling to come back. I could definitely see that angle, because I mean, either way, whether the Imperial Legion win or whether the Stormcloaks win, there's a clear tension between Skyrim and the Outmere Dominion. And I feel like even if the Legion did win the war, the citizens would push back on it. Like, they would not just let the Outmere Dominion take over like that.
Desire number 2 on this list is actually for character classes to make a return. This is a big one for us. In previous Elder Scrolls
I actually
games,
agree with
there
that.
were classes which determined how your character would start with skills and so on. However, unlike previous games where you had attributes, major skills, and minor skills depending on your class, and major skills leveled faster and were only the skills that contributed to your character leveling up, you could do it much simpler. I envision a class system that keeps people who love role-playing, like me, very happy, while also looking after the casual players who just don't care about classes. So in Skyrim, each race had various skill bonuses that they started with, and then you could go and level up whatever skills you wanted to, and they would all contribute to your overall leveling. You could start as a wood elf, and while you'd have a big bonus to archery, you could just choose to focus on magic, get really good at it, and be a master mage. You could be anything as any race, and I still want this to be possible. It would be boring if every Nord had to be a warrior, and every high elf had to be a wizard. With classes though, what you can do is keep racial skill bonuses, but then more or less tag skills which will start even higher. This can be balanced by having other skills be even lower. So if you pick a class or even create a custom class, everything starts at 5 or even say 10 instead of 15 or 20 or 25. Then you get some +5s and a +10 from your race.
Okay, so the question is, should classes return to Elder Scrolls 6? And classes have been a thing since, well, D&D, right? That's where it really came from, is just like tabletop RPG, and kind of it building, like, class systems have always been a thing. Whether it's blatantly stated or not, that's another question, but classes themselves has always been a big part of RPG. Whether you be a warrior or a mage, whether you be something more specific, it's always been very prominent in every like RPG, especially open world ones. So I definitely think that yes, classes should 100% be a part of Elder Scrolls 6. It really is kind of just the building block to building out characters, to make them feel more unique, to potentially even not just classes but backgrounds, and being able to kind of explore, give them history, give them a story that isn't outside of the Elder Scrolls 6. You could kind of go about the same way that Mass Effect goes with creating Shepard and kind of building a history for your character. And it would be very interesting if, potentially speaking, you could actually build a history for your character. It doesn't have to be something that is so complex, that is so crazy. It just has to be something that like gives you the feeling of this character has been alive for a lot longer than just the 1 minute that I've played this character as. And it would feel much more in depth. You don't have to go into detail. You could simply have kind of a way, like multiple options as to like where's the character from, who, like where do they stand personally. You could have like kind of almost like a personality kind of thing. but you could build that out as well. So it doesn't necessarily have to be something that is like forced onto you. But I definitely think if you give more opportunity for there to be a potential reason as to why they are class, the signs that they were born under, etc., I definitely think that's important to include, and it should definitely not be getting rid of. And I definitely think the signs should still be there as well. They're a very prominent thing in the Elder Scrolls franchise, and I don't see them going anywhere anytime soon.
And then some more +5s based on your class. Now, if you don't want to pick a class in the case of more casual players, they could just have their racial bonuses and then be given a more even spread of skills, like is currently done in Skyrim. However, the purpose of having classes is to facilitate role-playing, so if in your backstory you were a renowned knight, you can actually start your new game with a bonus to one-handed, block, and heavy armor, even if this was not in line with your race choice. As you can see, this gives you a lot more freedom with the backstory and role-playing, because you can have some sort of skill set when you start the game that isn't just defined by your race. It's not meant to be overpowered either, just a little bonus. Look at it like min-maxing, which is something we do when picking special stats in Fallout games. We have really low stats at the start in some areas, so we can have really high stats in other areas. So you could have a start game character in Elder Scrolls 6 who has 10 in skills that he or she didn't choose in their class and aren't good for their race. Then they'd have 15 in skills they didn't pick in their class but get minor race bonuses to, and then 20 maybe in one skill even if they didn't pick it for their class just because their race is excellent at it. Then whatever skills they did pick would get plus 10 on top of this. So you could have 30 in a skill if you made or chose a class that had utilized their best racial skill. I really want to see in Elder Scrolls 6 is better through though without being forced into it. It's how in Skyrim you had to get caught crossing that border, which still gave going to save the world from the here to say there's one right way to do it. But this is just some food for thought, and I would like to see classes make a return even if they are streamlined. Now for number 3, and this one's quite the opinion. In Elder Scrolls 6, we would actually prefer if there was not a predestined backstory for our character. Skyrim is a great power fantasy, but from the very early stages of the game, you were admired for being the Dragonborn, and told you're the greatest thing since sliced sweet roll, and you're going to save the world from the big bad dragon. Now instead of making us the pre-fated savior of Tamriel, we find it better for role-playing and character development if you just start as a nobody, or at least someone with a clean slate. The prisoner predicament would work beautifully, and we don't mind if it's used yet again. You're a prisoner, but even better if you don't know why you're a prisoner or how. In Skyrim, you had to get caught crossing that border, which still gave us plenty of room to work with. But it's even better if you just get to make up your past entirely. Then when you actually play the game, you'll just feel like a random person with whatever past you want to believe you had, who ends up being caught up in events larger than themselves. This was how things were done in Oblivion. Sure, you were the face the Emperor saw in his dreams, but that was it. In Oblivion, you could still easily enjoy a power fantasy playthrough though without being forced into it. It's fun to go on a massive power trip in video games, it really is, but if you want to just mind your own business, you should be able to, instead of being rushed into saving the world. The thing that makes the Elder Scrolls games so appealing is being able to truly be who you want to be and get lost in the lore and the universe, doing side quests, even ignoring the main quest if you want.
Okay, so there's another question. Okay, so the question being, what should the beginning of the Elder Scrolls 6 be like? Should we be in prison? Should there be this long drawn intro? And and also there's kind of a question of, should we be this grand hero? Where should the main story even bring us? Now, I do think that us having the destiny of being this great hero has been the forefront of every single Elder Scrolls main story. Whether we're the Dragonborn, whether we're the Nectarine, whether we are the champion, or whatever we are someone of note, always. Whether we're the leader of the Dark Brotherhood, whether we are a master thief, whatever we are, we're usually very important. But this brings into the question of whether or not we should have the choice to be an absolute nobody who doesn't care about anything. Now, you can always roleplay that in any Elder Scrolls games, but I think the question is, for Bethesda, is how would we draw in an audience that cares about the main story enough to buy the game? Because we role players, we will be satisfied no matter what happens with the Elder Scrolls 6, pretty much. But it's the everyday viewer, the people that are watching these trailers. And you have to kind of look at the Oblivion trailer, at the Skyrim trailers, and even the Morrowind trailers, and kind of see why they were successful. The immediate draw to Skyrim was the fact that we were this dragonborn character who could slay dragons and be this epic hero. Now, you can make it so that, yes, there is this draw of being whoever we want in this Elder Scrolls game, but also having a purpose at the same time. Because we like to spend 700 hours in a million hours in the Elder Scrolls games, but there are plenty of players that just like to do a one and done. And the story does need to be able to pay off in a way to where the mainstream player is satisfied. Because even if we, the player, want, hardcore roleplay fans, want there to be this idea of choice and this idea of choosing our fates, there is kind of this idea that we are still the player character. We have to be important in some degree, whether it be, an assassin or a great hero or whatever. But maybe the answer is not so much as changing our destiny, but changing how we go about it. If we are the Dragonborn, then what? We could go to High Hrothgar and learn the ways of being a Dragonborn. Or we could go the Mirac approach and kind of just use that power for our greater good and become the most powerful character, the most powerful villain in the Elder Scrolls game. I think that is the way that we should go about it. Yes, we have this great power, great title, but the question is, how are we going to use that? That is what distinguishes us from each character. And we could have a million different ways to go about it, and I definitely think that would be the real draw to the Elder Scrolls 6. That not only could we be this great hero, but we could be that great hero and turn into a villain.
Without that feeling silly. So rather than being worshipped from almost the get-go, we prefer if we could grind for the respect of those around us, instead of being handed admiration on a platter. Being the Dragonborn often felt like it overshadowed other achievements too. You might have grinded to become the most powerful wizard in the game, and the Archmage of the College of Winterhold, and while people still acknowledged it, they still focused on your identity very much so as the mighty Dragonborn. Even in Morrowind you were the Nerevarine, but people didn't really think of you like that, and you had to work hard without superpowers to actually get good, versus just being able to drag and shout almost instantly. Power feels better when you earn it. Skyrim was still amazing though, but we'd prefer not to be innately superpowered in Elder Scrolls 6. Desire number 4 I really want to see in Elder Scrolls 6 is better joinable faction options and better executed faction plot lines. Morrowind gave us some more choice when it came to philosophies in factions, and that's something that I really want to see in Elder Scrolls 6. For example, if you're a mage, you could join the Mages Guild, or you could join House Telvanni. On the other hand, in Skyrim, you pretty much only have a mage-centric quest line if you join the College of Winterhold and work out their problems, eventually becoming the Archmage.
I think the solution to factions is to make sure that your choices matter, that your loyalties matter. If I'm a vampire and I'm trying to join the Companions, they should look at me and be like, you can't join the Companions. Sorry, but you can't. And we would kind of question as to why, why are they rejecting us? That's weird. I thought there were these, great heroes, but they're rejecting my application because I'm a vampire? And then you come to realize that the reason why they're rejecting you is because they themselves are werewolves. And you're like, so it's not, kind of having those like choices matter. Is like, if you become the leader of the Dark Brotherhood, everybody's gonna know. Everybody's gonna know. And that could potentially kind of affect your standing in other factions. Let's say, oh, I have an idea. Let's say you join kind of like the Fighters Guild or like the Heroes Clan or whatever, and then you join the Dark Brotherhood and you rise to be the leader of the Dark Brotherhood. And that clan finds out that you are their number one enemy. That you are now working for the very thing that they stand against. Now you have this conflict. Now you have to choose between, kind of just leaving the clan or potentially kind of spinning it into your favor. Like, there are different ways that you could kind of grow that and kind of be like, wow, he's going down the wrong path, and kind of having that conflict built in. So instead of joining like 50 different factions, you're actually limited in the factions that you can join. That makes it more important for you to decide the actions and the choices that you're going to make within your playthrough, and you have potential of coming back for more as you explore the different paths and the different options. Like, maybe there's a secret way that you can still join like the Heroes Clan and be the leader of the Dark Brotherhood, and kind of manipulate your way in, and it potentially even change the whole faction to where it favors your support. There are so many ways that you can bring this to where it would still be meaningful, and your choices would actually matter.
I made an entire video on why the College of Winterhold storyline sucked, which you can look at if you want, but even if the story was amazing, why not have more than one mage faction? I mean, if you want to be a bandit-like elemental mage, you feel just a little bit too nice and respectable while doing the College of Winterhold. The same thing happened in Elder Scrolls for Oblivion, where you were forced into being the hero of the Mages Guild, even if you wanted to be an evil necromancer and work alongside the Order of the Black Worm, the enemies in the Mages Guild plotline. Or back to Skyrim, how we couldn't join the Silver Hand and hunt down werewolves, even if we disagreed with the idea of werewolves during the Companions questline. Basically, we've been shoehorned into the morality of a faction, depending on our class type or skills, for too long, and we want more options for joinable guilds. There should be a Warriors Guild that's very honorable, and one that is more mercenary-like, an Assassin's Guild who only do noble contracts and take out clearly evil targets, and another who just kills any person if the money is right. You get the idea here. I've played so many stealth archer builds who are perfect for the Dark Brotherhood, skills-wise, but would completely oppose their values and ethics. I think values and philosophies being imprinted onto factions is great because it makes them interesting, but it's only good when there's many different factions to join. It would also be cool to have a kind of reputation system where if you progress far enough in one faction, say a mage guild, then the other rival magic-based faction wouldn't like you, and you'd be locked out of joining. Now, not only would I want at least one extra faction for each basic combat skill set, so 2 for warriors to consider, 2 for mages and 2 for thieves and 2 for assassins, or just anyone who uses stealth as a main component of combat, but it would also be good if we could take factions in different ways. This is especially important if Bethesda do keep the faction amounts as limited as they are. So what I mean by this is that if there is only one guild for thieves, we should be able to make decisions in it which actually change the course of events. For example, imagine a thieves guild. As you've worked your way up into a position of power, you could start making some lower end decisions and eventually then some...
There should be an option to work with Mercer Frey rather than fight against him. Like, we learn the secrets of Carlia and Brynjolf, and we learn that, in everything that truly happened, and we decide we can use this against them. So when we return to the Sanctuary, instead of favoring Carlia, we can actually choose to double cross her and be like, actually, I brought this traitor in so that we can make an example of her. That would be an insane twist to be able to do, and would be very doable. Like, imagine you bring Carlia to the Thieves Guild, she's trying to say that she has kind of like redeemed herself. Everyone's confused as to why he brought her back. And you're like, Carlia thinks that you're on her side, but in reality, you're like, I don't trust her. I came here to make an example of her. We don't support traitors to the Thieves Guild. And you just kill her. And that sparks a chain of events to where you are actually working in Mercer Frey's favor. And potentially, Mercer Frey even learns of this action and praises you for it and wants to work with you. Or maybe even the Blackbriar family hears about this incident and they potentially step in. Like maybe Maven actually didn't like Mercer Frey, and now she's opposed to the dark to your decisions. Or maybe she becomes a major villain as well. Or maybe she supports your decision in the choices that you made, and now you have her as a strong ally, and she's supporting every action that you put. In fact, maybe she even tells you to slaughter the rest of them so that they can start from the ground up. So that they can start all over again. And kind of, especially with Maven being in the pockets of the Dark Brotherhood, it would make sense that she would be more in favor of just wiping guild members out. And that would set a precedent for the future guild members to make sure that they fall in line with you and Maven Blackbriar as you take over the guild. And now you have this tension within the guild potentially, and you're taking the guild into a completely new direction.
Higher end decisions which sway the guild to a more of a Robin Hood direction, where you only steal from the rich or evil and give to the poor and needy, or you could dominate the streets and turn the guild into some real mafia level action where you get protection money from all the shop owners, you've got different henchmen running different jobs, and you can get into a lot more crime than just stealing from kings and
I think having more choices in general is definitely the play to do.
It would be an awesome way to have a guild that's for unethical stealthy characters without it explicitly being we're the best assassins or we're the best lockpickers. So two choices within one guild is definitely a step up from where we come of the plot. Replayability, as you'd have where your choices within the quest are a step up from the best lockpickers. Even imagine if it was like Witcher, where your choices within the quests could change the outcome. This would provide a lot of even for this side with Astrid in the Dark Brotherhood. Or imagine in the College of Winterhold storyline if you could actually defect and help the College of Whispers or the Synod Mages uncover the power of the Eye of Magnus. That would be really dope. They're just some ideas, but you see what I'm saying here. Now for number 5, something really basic I want to see in Elder Scrolls 6 is an upgraded armor and apparel system, a layered one at that. You know how in Fallout 4 we could wear clothing and then put pieces of armor on top of that? That would work perfectly in the Elder Scrolls universe too. With an upgraded armor system, we could have slots for things like pauldrons as well, although obviously the more slots there are, the more we need to reduce the potency of enchanting to counter the possibility of it becoming even more overpowered than it already might be. Now not only would we wear armor over robes and clothes and so on, but also the other way around. So things like capes, hoods, robes over the top of armor, and other little aesthetic things that make you look really badass as you roam around the location of wherever Elder Scrolls 6 is set. There are some really sensational pieces of robed armor in the Immersive Armors mod, which heavily inspired this idea for me. It just looks so cool.
Okay, so the last added thing is layers, and I definitely agree with that. I definitely think, at the very least, go the Kingdom Come Deliverance route, where you have types of like you have like head 1, 2, 3, and you can kind of stack them up, and you can like look like a doofus, or you can look like an epic hero. Kind of having that ability to kind of change how you look. Like imagine that you kind of build up your own like bat suit in a way, where you're like dressed in all black, and you have this and you even have like a black helmet. Being able to dye armor as well. To dye armor, being able to change colors, like that's it. Because like, let's say you look at the armor, you like the armor type, you just don't like the color. So you change the color by gathering up like flowers and stuff, is that would give ingredients a whole new level of needing them. So instead of just needing them for alchemy, you could potentially need like a yellow flower to make yellow. You can need like maybe the death bell to make like a dark blue. You could have like the color palette, and being able to kind of like you could become a whole like a fashion designer. And like just change how the armors look, and maybe there's like a preset of like what you can do with the armors. That would be completely fine, but as long as you can customize them, I think that'd be very cool. So those are the 5 things that Fudgemuppet wants to add to the game, and this is what I had to say about all of those things. Do you agree with me? Do you think that we should go with like, well, what do you think? What do you think? What are like 5 things that you want to see in the Elder Scrolls 6? I'll definitely do more of these, kind of going in depth and discussing like whether I agree, whether I disagree. I'll definitely go more in depth and kind of give my overall thoughts. I definitely look forward to seeing where the Elder Scrolls 6 actually ends up going, because it could be completely off to what we were thinking. I have no doubt that the Elder Scrolls 6 will probably be huge, because, you know, that's where the direction Bethesda is going with Starfield and everything. And so I think potentially the Elder Scrolls 6 could be the biggest game in Elder Scrolls history. And the question is whether or not we want to see that, or whether it might be too much even. So leave a like on this video if you guys enjoyed it. Subscribe for more content like this. Post your comments down below. And thank you guys so much for coming by. Hope to see you guys in the future. And peace out, guys. It's been a blast to catch you guys next time. Bye.